Today is Tuesday, May 9th, 2017, and today we got to talk about that old lady who got dumped on the head at the pool party in North Lauderdale, Florida, which is right in between Miami and West Palm. Now, this situation is really crazy. The main thing about it, just beyond the video, which I'm about to get to in a little bit, and also the news reporting, which I'll also get to in a little bit when we roll the clip. The crazy thing about this is the reaction on social media and just from the public in general, but also specifically from the news, but just the reaction in general is really crazy. Now, what I want to do right now is go ahead and get straight to the clip. And in the clip, you'll see what happened, and you'll also see people trying to explain it. You know, the actual news reporter, you see him actually try to explain it, and then you'll see some reaction from neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll also talk about one thing that you may not have actually seen in the reporting. And I'll put links to the full video outside of the context of the news story in the box below, so you're able to see what I'm talking about. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
All right, a Broward County teenager is facing some incredible charges this morning. He's accused of assaulting a 68-year-old woman right here and throwing her into a pool. Broward deputies say he did it because she was complaining about a party being too loud. As Ian Margot shows us, the incident was caught on camera.
Nancy Jones was just asking these kids to turn down the music. That's when a young man decided he was going to throw her into the pool, which seems like it would be a harmless prank,
Really?
But he slipped and fell with her to the ground, then decided to drag her in anyway.
Whatever happened just happened that day. I don't know. Kids got crazy a little bit.
These friends were at that party and say they didn't actually see her get thrown in, but did see the aftermath.
All I seen people go to running. So I went out the gate, then I went back to see what happened, and I seen she came out the pool, she was wet.
When we showed that video to neighbors, they were blown away.
She's an elder. You need to show respect for your elders. That's crazy. That's a horrible, horrible thing that happened to her.
Tracy Ann Simmons says Nancy was the first person she met at Players Place Townhomes and that she can't believe someone would do something like this.
Young people need to learn from this and pay attention to what they do and think about their actions before they do them.
The teen turned himself into the Broward Sheriff's Office and was arrested on one count of battery on a person 65 years or older.
Okay, so you see what's happening. You see the whole news story. Now, this story really is crazy. The lady is okay. She was in the hospital for a while, but she's been released. She didn't have any broken bones or anything, thank goodness. I did see a post on Facebook. I'm not sure if it's true or false, but apparently the lady did live there. She was a member of the HOA. That's the Homeowners Association. Even though this is an apartment complex, which we'll get to in a little bit, but the person said that the lady had a hip replacement and also had a stent, I think, in her heart recently. I'm not sure if that's true or false, but as you can see by the slam that happened, that could have easily injured her hip again, could have put her back in the hospital to get another hip replacement. It could have slowed down the healing process if she had not healed all the way. And then also with the heart, I mean, just imagine the shock of going through something like that. That could really mess up your heart, and then getting thrown in the pool. Who knows if she can actually swim? You don't know what's going on. And then plus she has her dogs with her. The dogs, I think, are also okay. I've not heard anything about the dogs being harmed. But let's just back up and just go through the whole thing. And then I'll explain from my point of view, outside of what the reporter was trying to say, what happened. Now, what you have is a big crazy pool party, and you probably got about 200 or so black teens there. Now, this is at an apartment complex. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of these black teens have not lived there, but we'll get to that in a little bit as well. You got this big crazy pool party, and I already know what it is. It's the middle of the day. People are trying to rest. People are trying just to enjoy their weekend or whatever. I think it was a Saturday this happened. They're just trying to enjoy their day. The music is loud. You got a DJ there. He probably does not live in the neighborhood. It was probably a party that they threw, and they had flyers and whatnot. And then they say, hey, come to this public pool in our neighborhood and we'll have a big party here. That is most likely what happened. And then one of the neighbors from the HOA is like, hey, the music is too loud. I need you guys to calm it down. That's why the lady came up there rather than calling the police, because she could have called the police. But then what happens when the police get there and then one person get taken down ever so lightly? Now all of a sudden it's a civil rights case. Remember that same thing happened. I think it was in Texas where you had the white officer and the 14-year-old black girl. It was this whole big thing. Oh, she was a little girl. She didn't do nothing. Even though she didn't even get hurt, she barely got touched really at all. But just seeing her get taken down at all was enough to enrage Black Twitter and some of Black Lives Matter, etc. But we're going to move on. Now, rather than doing that, calling the police, having them handle it, she went over there herself with her dogs. A nice old lady. She's 68 years old or 69, if I'm not mistaken. She's either 68 or 69 years old with her two dogs, and was like, hey, can you guys quiet it down? She was being nice. Now, what the people at the party were thinking about was doing what they had been doing throughout the whole party, which was to throw girls in the pool. But this is not just one of your didn't do friends, 18, 19-year-old black girl. This is a 68-year-old lady with her dogs. So they're not thinking that way, but we'll get to that in a little bit as well. I'll tie it all together. Now, the guy is being egged on by a black woman in the background. I'm not quite sure if you were able to hear that in the news story. She was saying, throw her in, throw her in. One guy got kind of close to her. He was getting ready to throw her in. But then the guy that actually did it, whose name is Leon Balfour Jr., who has now turned himself in, and he's currently on home detention until his court date. Now, I'm not quite sure what the punishment is going to be. So that's all we have for now. He's on home detention until his next court date. Now, he gets the bright idea to pick her up and to try to throw her in the pool. Now, this is where the slamming happens. Now, I will say this. What the reporter said was correct about him trying to just throw her in the pool, and then he slipped and fell. You could see that because his knee had hit the ground. He fell. So then, therefore, she fell. And then after that, he tried to throw her in the pool anyway. Well, he did throw her in the pool anyway, dragging her and the dogs and everything else. See, this whole thing was just a completely brainless action that happened. Totally brainless, not using his brain at all. The reporter ought to be saying to himself, talking about, oh, he thought it would be a harmless prank. No, he was not thinking at all. He was not using his brain. It was a brainless action, right? Because number one, like I said, this is not some 18, 19-year-old dindu heathen that you can just throw in the pool, right? This is an old lady with her dogs. Do not touch her, period. People are trying to justify it, saying, oh, he was just trying to throw her in the pool. He didn't mean nothing by it. He didn't do nothing. No, no, no. Do not touch this old lady, period. Period. She did not come over there to be involved with your pool party, and she got her dogs with her. If you had been thinking, you're thinking, okay, this is an old lady. If I throw her or if I slip and fall, she could break a hip. She might hit her head. She's not able to really be as durable as a young person is. Also, she got her dogs with her. So if I throw her in the pool, I'm dragging the dogs and everything else. I don't know if these dogs can swim. I don't know what's going on with these dogs. And if I throw her in the pool, where the dog's going to go? Is anybody going to get the dogs? Is anybody going to do anything? See, it was no thought process behind it. But see, there was no need to even go through all of that thinking if he just would have simply used his brain to just do one correct action, which to not touch her. Do not touch this old lady, period. People trying to say, oh, she was trespassing. Trespassing? What are you talking about? First of all, this is an apartment complex called the Players Place Apartments, if I'm not mistaken. I'll link to the actual name of it in the box below. But it's an apartment complex. There is no trespassing unless you don't live there. And I'm pretty sure 99% of the people that came to that pool party did not live there. So if you want to talk about trespass, talk about those that were actually there at the pool party that were engaging in it, that were playing the loud music, etc. The DJ that probably came from Miami or somewhere like that. They go up to the pool party to throw it. Because like I said, it was probably flyers floating around and say, hey, come to X, Y, and Z place. We're going to throw a pool party. No permits or nothing like that. So if anything, if anybody was in the wrong, if anybody was trespassing, it was everybody at that pool party. I say probably about 90%. Do you think that a pool party at an apartment complex can have 200 people with a live DJ and everybody live there? Let's just use our brain. Obviously, that's not what's going on. So that's the first thing. And then people are trying to say, oh, well, she should have called the cops. Well, hey, if she called the cops, then what happens when somebody get their head bust, somebody gets shot, or somebody get taken down? Then you're a racist for doing that, right? Now, I will say this. She should have probably called the police. That probably would have been a better thing to do, right? I don't even care if she gets called a racist or whatever, because she overestimated her safety. She did not really understand that when you were in a group of people like that, a group of black, young, brainless idiots like that, what's going to happen is you in danger. You go over there, you're just trying to be a nice lady and ask them nicely to keep the music down. What happens is you put yourself in a line of fire, because they're not thinking. It's a completely brainless and animalistic type of energy that happens when you're in that kind of situation. First of all, there's no consideration for the neighbors. You playing loud music or whatever. You don't even care. You're just having a ball, having a blast. You're not thinking about anybody else. You're just thinking about what you want to do. That's what this young boy was doing. He was not thinking about this old lady and her dogs. He was thinking about her, the same as everybody else. It's brainless activity. Like I said, people trying to say it was harmless, but I mean, let's switch the roles around. Let's switch it around. Let's say that it was all white guys. It was a frat party at a pool. You had 200 white guys and girls, 18, 19 years old. And then you had an old black lady come up there with her dogs, 68 years old with 2 dogs. And she asked them nicely, hey, can you keep the music down? And then rather than just ignoring her, rather than, abiding by her wishes, rather than not touching her, they pick her up. They try to throw her in the pool. She falls. Her head bounces off of the actual, the floor, the ground. And then they drag her into the pool. Man, you would have race riots for years behind that. Every black group, NAACP, Black Lives Matter, Nation of Islam, everybody would be there. Remember what happened at that actual Chinese or Korean corner store where the Asian guy kicked the black woman. Just 24 hours later, you had Nation of Islam, NAACP, news cameras, all of that, asking for an apology, this, that, and the third. But meanwhile, you got an old white lady with her dogs get slammed on the head and then dragged into a pool against her wishes. No, he was a good boy. He didn't do nothing. Let him get a light sentence. It wasn't a hate crime. He was just it was a harmless prank. See, people are seeing this kid. They see pictures of him. They see him with his cute little hair and all type of stuff like that. They're trying to say, oh, go easy on him. He didn't mean nothing by it. But what you don't understand is that this is the problem with the black community. These kind of actions don't get regulated. They don't get nipped in the bud right away. So when people do things like this, they don't think that it's really a big problem because nobody gets in trouble for it. That's the problem that happens. Nobody gets in trouble. There's never any kind of consequence. There's never any kind of penalty. That is why these things continue to happen. So you got to get this guy on some kind of assault charge right now, because what's going to happen is it's going to happen again. And the reality is black on senior violence is actually a very big problem. It's a very big problem. I think what it is that they're seen as weak. They're seen as, like not really important. They're seen as easy targets. That's what's going on a lot with black on senior violence. It's a lot of black on senior sexual violence as well, but I won't even go there. This is not an isolated incident. Regardless of what you may think, this happens a lot. But because this kid looks like he's promising, his dad is in jail and stuff like that, you want to have sympathy on him. But the sympathy is what causes this kind of thing to occur. So that's really just what it is. So the reaction from it, trying to say that he was a good boy, it wasn't really that big of a deal. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, because what if it was your mother? What if it was your mom getting slammed on her head and thrown in the pool? Would you be like, oh, well, nah, it was just a harmless prank. He was just trying to, he didn't do nothing. And everybody knew that it was wrong. Everybody that was there knew it was wrong, because everybody scattered like roaches when it happened. Everybody ran away. So if it was such a harmless act, if it was not really a big deal, then why did everybody run away? Why did everybody run away? Everybody knew what was going on was the wrong thing to do. And shame on anybody that was there that did not try to stop what was happening, egging it on, laughing, joking. The person that posted it on Twitter, talking about don't say anything, just retweet with a bunch of laughing faces and stuff like that. I think it's okay. But then when they go to jail for doing something like that, then it won't be okay. But then, of course, it'd be the whole Black Lives Matter, hands up, don't shoot, this, that, and the third. So that's pretty much all I had to say about it. Like I said, the lady is okay, but she could have easily died in that situation. She did go to the ER, but she was released. She could have easily died in that situation. She could have easily broken her hip again. She could have easily had some kind of medical emergency with her heart. Anything could have happened. She could have drowned. Like, she could have hit her head, been unconscious. This Dindu in a complete rage. He has no idea what's going on, because when she dropped Like the first mistake was picking her up, period. The second mistake was when he fell and then she dropped and hit the ground. At that point, you got to just snap out of it and be like, wait a minute, I can't, I made a mistake here. But then he continued to drag her into the pool. You see, you treating her like she's like a rag doll, like a piece of garbage, like she's nothing. This is a human being you're doing this to. That kind of behavior, if it's not nipped in the bud, will continue. You're going to see this dude in jail just like his dad. I guarantee you, if you do not nip his behavior in the bud right now. So that's all I got to say. What do you think? Do you think that this was a premeditated hate crime, that this thing was something that he just intended to do to this old lady? Do you think that this was a crime of brainlessness, not thinking about this person as a human being, to not touch her? This is a 68-year-old lady with her dogs. Why touch her? Or do you think that she was violating their space? I have seen comments like that. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, whoever that was that said that. I won't name your name because you don't deserve it. But do you think that it was okay because she violated their space and was trespassing? Now, again, this is at an apartment complex. How did you trespass if you live there? If you are the HOA, how did you trespass on the place where you live at? And if you want to talk about trespassing again, if you got 200 kids at a pool party with a live DJ, who actually lives in that apartment complex that's at the pool party? Probably, at best, probably about 3 or 4 at best. So if you want to talk about trespassing, talk about people that were actually at the pool party, not this old lady who was just trying to tell them to keep it down. So I got a little bit heated on that one, but that was really a crazy story. A lot of you guys wanted me to do that one, so I did it for y'all. Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.